It's your home for the first reaction and analysis after the Dogs play. This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by ServPro, Georgia Spa Company, Circle K, and the UGA Bookstore. Now here's your host, Brandon Adams.
Good afternoon, Dawg Nation. Welcome into Davis Wade Stadium, Starkville, Mississippi, where the Georgia Bulldogs have come on the road for the final time of the 2025 regular season and have gotten one of their most convincing wins of the year, 41-21 over Mississippi State here today. It was a game in which Georgia did a lot of things well on both sides of the ball. I think in many respects it's going to be a day remembered for one of the best football games, if not the best football game that Nate Frazier has played since being at UGA. But ultimately, after an opening drive touchdown for Mississippi State to begin the game, it was a, for the most part, lockdown performance, Georgia defensively for the rest of the first half. Obviously, Mississippi State does tack on some scores late in the fourth quarter when the game was already decided. And Georgia gives you the impression that it may be turning the corner at the exact right time, and it might be truly preparing itself for the stretch run with a massive game next Saturday against Texas, an in-state rival against Georgia Tech before the regular season comes to a close, with Charlotte pinned in between those two. Here in the month of November, where your playoff positioning is going to be determined, Georgia is, by appearances, playing some of its very best football of the season. I think that's my biggest takeaway from today's game. We want to find out what your takeaways are as well. You can give us a call, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Be a part of the show. You can also click the link on any of our video platforms, YouTube, DawgNation.com, or Facebook. You can join us there. We want to hear from you tonight. Also happy to have Rodrigo Blankenship checking in too. It's been a busy weekend for Rodrigo. He's been kind enough to make a little bit of time for us, and we certainly appreciate that. Rodrigo, I know you've got a lot going on, so we'll jump right to you on this. I thought this was about as good as I've seen Georgia look for a full game today. Yeah, there's a little bit tacked on at the end, and obviously the opening drive was reminiscent of a lot of what Georgia fans have experienced this season. But in totality, I thought there was a lot to like from Georgia here today. Rodrigo, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I loved what I saw today. Like you said, there was a lot to like about this game. I mean, obviously, the opening touchdown for Mississippi State, it is what it is. We've seen plenty of Georgia games where the opposing team marches right down the field on the first possession, and then it's all dogs the rest of the way, and that was the story today. So I think this was probably the most complete game that we've seen from Georgia to this point. I really feel like the offense and the defense were playing well from start to finish in all four quarters, and that's something that Georgia fans have been longing to see throughout this season. Is just a complete game. What does this Georgia team look like when they put it all together from the first whistle to the final whistle? And I think we got a glimpse of that today with the offense and the defense both playing at an extremely high level, and special teams as well. Peyton with 2 big field goals, Brett doing some good work like he always does. So really it just felt like a total game from this Georgia team, and we see the results. This could be a really scary Georgia team in the home stretch.
I would also add into that, Rodrigo, the idea that for a Georgia team that has really made its season-long goal to be a better rushing football team than it was last season, well, we've seen for the most part that's already been true. Chauncey Bowen's got the game-winning touchdown against Florida last week, as a for instance. But boy, I thought you today got a glimpse of the full firepower of exactly what this Georgia offense can be. With Chauncey Bowen's touchdown to begin the game, Nate Frazier had the longest play of the season for Georgia, going 56 yards for a score to begin the third quarter. Georgia goes well over 200 yards for the game in terms of a team total rush. And when it comes to neutralizing some of the high-powered offenses that Georgia, has faced and will likely face before this season's done, if you're able to chew up big chunks on the ground like that, controlling the clock in the process, I just think that gives Georgia, Rodrigo, a chance to just wrap its big paws around the throat of a football game and really just control it. This was, to me, the best version of Georgia. I thought that Gunner was good today. I thought he was distributing the football very well. There were some nice plays from Georgia through the air. But to be able to do what it did on the ground, that's really an indication of everything that Georgia can be.
Yeah, it was so great to see Nate Frazier do what he did today. I mean, he was running out there rattling off 30 and 40-yard runs with just one shoe on. I think that this was Nate Frazier's breakout game in a sense. He had a tremendous game today, and it makes me think back to the Alabama game from a few weeks ago when a lot of us were, we saw he had that fumble early on in the game, and he didn't see the field the rest of that game, and we were all sitting in that post game talking about, well, hopefully this will be a moment that Nate Frazier will learn from and grow from. And I think that over the last few weeks, we have really seen him take that in stride and just really get to work on the practice field. I think that the results are showing, especially in the game that we saw from him today. I think that that has been a defining moment for Nate Frazier this season, learning from that experience, knowing that, hey, this team needs me. They need to depend on me. I need to be the guy to step up and allow this Georgia team to have an elite rushing offense and open up our offense in its entirety. And so it was really great to see Nate have so much success today, out there just be an absolute freak athlete, torching this defense, even with only one cleat on. Was really great to see for Nate Frazier. And like you said, when you can control the ball in the way that they did today and just really have your way, open up your full playbook whenever you want, that's going to allow this team to have a lot of success down the home stretch.
And Rodrigo, I want to talk about this defense here for a moment too, because we saw a couple of things from Georgia we haven't seen a lot this year. For instance, after Georgia had a fumble, when it looked like, they were going to march in for a score, but right here at this goal line behind me, Dylan Bell coughed it up. That cost Georgia a touchdown. Shortly after that, Quintavious Johnson gets a hit. KJ Bolden gets the recovery. Georgia forced a fumble of its own. We haven't seen them doing a lot of that. That also goes along with, in this first quarter today alone, Raylan Wilson, by my count, had 2 sacks. So when it comes to a Georgia team that just hasn't really been dynamic in that way, not been sacking quarterbacks, not forcing a lot of turnovers, here in the early stages of the game, because I can tell you, the stadium wasn't full today, but it was a really good vibe in here before the game. They had a lot of patriotic theming. The crowd had the cowbells going. There was a lot of energy in this stadium early on, and Georgia doing what it did defensively, bouncing back after giving up the initial touchdown, kept this from turning into one of those hostile road environments where it's facing what I think of in Mississippi State as a high-powered offense and having to shoot it out and duke it out with them. What the defense did in the first quarter prevented that from being the case, and then Georgia goes into the half, up 24-7. They're up 31-7 in the third quarter. I credit a lot of that to the defense here today, getting timely stops once Georgia took the lead to make sure that Georgia kept the momentum, and really for the first time in a sustained way this season, actually getting after the quarterback a little bit too.
Yes, it was great to see, some of the issues that we've been talking about throughout the course of the season. It felt like this defense really stepped up in some of those ways today. As you said, we got 2 sacks early on in the game. That was great to see. I feel like both quarterbacks were under pressure, even if they weren't necessarily being sacked every single time. Both of these quarterbacks, I think, were feeling the heat. I talked about in the pregame show, I would love to see some exotic pressures, some, very well-timed pressures coming in from different parts of the defense, whether it be from the linebacker level or the secondary level. And I really thought that Coach Schumann and Coach Smart did a great job of mixing in some of those things throughout this game. We saw C.J. Allen come scot-free on multiple blitzes. That was really great to see him heating up the quarterbacks. And so I think that if they can continue to do that, continue to generate pressure in ways that the other team's offenses aren't expecting, that will allow this defense to continue to play at a high level like they did today. Secondary played well. We got some pass rush in some different ways that we don't, just typically have when we just rush 4 or 5. We were able to get a few more guys involved in the mix. And so that was really great to see. And if this defense can play at this level the rest of the way, this Georgia team is going to be, a serious contender come time for the college football playoffs.
Couple more minutes with Rodrigo Blankenship. Also, we're going to take your phone calls here, too, so give us a call, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Also, click the link, join the show live. We'll talk to you about a 41-21 win for Georgia today over Mississippi State, its final regular season road game of the year, and arguably one of the more impressive performances that Georgia's had all season long. Rodrigo, let me also mention another name for you here for a minute. How impressed are you right now with what Zachariah Branch is doing? After a record day last week against Florida, he comes back with 8 catches again today, including a big touchdown near the end of the first half. Zachariah Branch right now is, I think, making a move towards being one of the more dynamic pass catchers that Georgia's had. I'm talking about, certainly in the national championship era, you're thinking Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. Prior to that, you're thinking George Pickens. I think along the way here, Branch is becoming a player, not a Brock Bowers necessarily, that was a first-round pick, but but somebody that really is about as dynamic as they've had at the receiver position, at the pass catcher position. Zachariah Branch is becoming a very important player for Georgia, Rodrigo.
Yes, he is. He's probably the most important player for the Georgia offense after Gunnar Stockton. I mean, at his stats, as you said, 6 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown today. Had a record-breaking day last week against Florida. He's just been the go-to man for Gunnar Stockton throughout this whole season, and it's been really great to see them develop that chemistry and develop that rapport. Whenever Georgia needs a big play, they need a well-timed third down conversion. It seems like Gunnar is always looking Branch's way, and he always seems to find a way to get open. He's just an incredibly dynamic and explosive player. It's really difficult to cover him one-on-one because he's so quick and so explosive, and we continue to see him affect the defense in ways, every single week in and week out, whether he's being single covered and he's getting open, or when he gets double covered and bracketed, then other receivers on this Georgia offense like Dylan Bell and Oscar Delp and Lawson Luckie are getting one-on-one matchups, and then you're able to distribute the ball to all of your offensive pieces because the defense is zoned in on him. So it's been really great to see him have such a great impact on this Georgia offense to this point in the season.
Rodrigo, I know it's a busy time for you. You've been kind enough to spend some of your time with us here today. Certainly appreciate that. Safe travels for you, and we'll look forward to having you back here on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show again very soon. Hoping for a win next week against Texas. We'll look forward to talking to you then on that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I could get to be a part of this experience, get to chat with you and have a great Dogs win. So enjoy the rest of the show, and go Dogs.
Go Dawgs, Rodrigo Blankenship. Appreciate that. And I'll give you a quick backstory here, and then we'll jump to the phone. So if you're on hold, stay where you are. And if you're looking to get in, we're going to run through as many of your phone calls as we can. We didn't know that we were going to have Rodrigo Blankenship on the show today. Rodrigo's got 1,000 things going on, very busy schedule this weekend, and he'd reached out to us this week to say, hey, may not be able to be there. My first response back to him was, Rodrigo, you take care of your business. We're just happy to have you when you can. So just go handle what you got to do. And sure enough, earlier today, I should say, we find out, no, he's made a little bit of time, able to make a window for us because he wanted to talk about these dogs. It's one of the reasons why we loved Hot Rod as a player. It's why we love him now. Just a really big part of what we've done all year long for our DawgNation postgame call-in show. I am thrilled to be able to get his take on all things Georgia. We got that there. So speaking of, by the way, next week against Texas, I'll remind you that next week we'll be back at the UGA bookstore for our DawgNation postgame call-in show. A chance to see you live and in person there. And, of course, don't forget, heading into that one next week, there'll also be and this is going to be a big one for that game against Texas, the night game next week. There are going to be all kinds of autograph gas and all kinds of fun stuff going on at the UGA bookstore next week. And if you want to get stocked up with Christmas on the way, with what we hope is a big run through the college football playoff on the way for Georgia too, getting stocked up on all the best UGA apparel. I'm talking about Peter Millar, Onward Reserve, Horn Legend, Johnny O. Y'all know that lately I've been loving the Johnny O stuff. All the Nike coaches gear, so much of that great Georgia apparel. You can find it at the UGA bookstore. We'll be there for our DawgNation postgame show after the game next week. We hope that we'll be able to see you there for that. All right, we've had our turn to talk. It's your turn to jump in on this now. Let's get your thoughts on Georgia getting a 41-21 win over Mississippi State here today. So 678-645-DAWG. That's the number, 678-645-DAWG. You can also click the link and join us YouTube, Facebook, DawgNation.com, whichever chat you're a part of. You can click there and be live via Zoom with us here today, too. We'll hear from Kirby Smart coming up in a moment. Prior to that, Joseph's in Griffin. Joseph, you're next up, or first up here today on the DawgNation postgame show. Joseph, how about them Dogs on the road? 20-point win. How much did you love it?
How about them Dogs, BA? Hey, I hope your voice get better, man. I appreciate you being on today. Yeah, we had a great win. The defense came up this time. We put a four-quarter game in this time instead of waiting to the third and fourth quarter. So I'm happy for that. And on to Texas. And me and my family are going to get to see you hopefully at the Georgia Tech game. I already got my ticket, so I'm excited about that too as well.
Man, I love that, Joseph. I appreciate that. I'm thankful that you're going to be coming. We've been saying that for a while now. We want Georgia fans to be filling that up and loading that stadium up. And I tell you, and I appreciate the call, Joseph, the thing that gets me excited about what's still to come for Georgia in November is we've been waiting for this game. We've been wanting to see it, that Georgia would have the chance to put that full four-quarter effort together. And as Joseph did a great job of describing, this is really one of those days in which Georgia did that. And it does, I think, give you even more optimism about what they might be able to do against Texas, what they might be able to do against Georgia Tech, what it might be able to do even beyond that. You want to be playing your best football at the end of the season, and we have reason to believe that is maybe what Georgia's doing. Joseph, good phone call. Way to get us cranked up here today. How about Tim's in Oglethorpe? You're next up on our DawgNation postgame call-in show. Tim, appreciate you. Glad you're here. How about them Dogs? What'd you think about this one here today?
Hey, B.A., how you doing?
I'm great, Tim.
How about them Dogs, B.A.?
How about
They
it?
look wonderful today. I just want to bring up, look, what do you think about that fake punt when they ran out and then Mississippi State called timeout and then Kirby Smart was on the sideline? Oh, it's okay. Come on back over. Come back on over. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. And they went right back out there and did it again and got that first down on 4th and, 3? And got the first down on a false start on the defense. And I got one more thing to say. I got 3 beautiful cheerleaders here in my house, and they're going to say one thing to you, B.A. You ready?
I love it.
Give me 3 girls.
I'm ready for it.
Go, Georgia Bulldogs, B.A. We love you. We love your show. And then we're going to end with that.
Tim, that is a great way to end it, and I can tell you're raising those kids. You're raising them right. That is an awesome thing to see. I appreciate you weighing in. I love to see your family having a good time with this one. Makes me miss my family. They're at home watching right now, and y'all are having a good time doing this today. That is incredible. And you're right. A lot of gamesmanship from Kirby on what looked to be a fake punt look, and you'll remember that's essentially the same thing that Marcus Freeman did in the Sugar Bowl a year ago. And I think that Smart had to get some clarification that day of, are you allowed to run the entire team off like that and then run an entirely new unit on, in this case, the offense? He got the clarification from the we got some coming in. He got some clarification that, yeah, you can do that. So Smart said, well, okay, well, if this worked against us, why don't we try this here today? And that's exactly what they did. So as Tim said, bring Thorson, the punting unit, on, then run them off, run the offense on. Mississippi State spots it. They ran their defense on. Then they called a timeout because I don't think they were 100% sure what their personnel is. Georgia came out, showed the punt look again, and then ran the punt unit off, ran the offense on. And as Tim said, this time they did get the offsides. And what's interesting about that is I don't know how well sometimes the TV picks this up, but I can tell you right now that when you're watching the game in the stadium and you're looking at the sidelines, one of the biggest things that goes on during the game right now is strategy related to substitutions. When the defense subs, and everybody does it, but a lot of people complain about it, they sub real slow. You'll watch them, defensive linemen, they're laboring onto the field. Offense, sometimes they don't want to sub. In fact, we see sometimes where they almost do decide not to because they know when they do, the official's going to step over the ball, give the defense a chance to do it. We saw Georgia get a false start against, was it Tennessee maybe? I think it was Tennessee because Tennessee was still having time to sub, and Georgia, I'm sorry, not a false start, a delay of game. Georgia got a delay of game with the official still standing over the ball because Georgia was a little late doing its own sub. So this is a little bit more of a dramatic version of that because it's the 4th down and it's the punt team on, then running the punt team back off. But trust me, in game, some of the biggest gamesmanship and strategic thinking, the chess match, the game within the game, some of the biggest stuff on that you're going to see is happening with when you sub, who you sub with, and trying to create that advantage for yourself. And in this particular case, maybe Georgia would have just lined up and gone for it anyway, but on what was like a 4th and 3, 4th and 4, by getting the offsides penalty, Georgia got the first down. They'd go on to score after that. So if you want to join us via phones, we're going to give you a chance to do so. 678-645-DAWG, DAWG spelled D-A-W-G, 678-645-DAWG. Also, if you want to click the link and join us live, you're going to have a chance to do that too. We'll get back to your phone calls here. We've also heard from Kirby Smart, though, about what he liked about this win today against Mississippi State. This really from just moments ago. Quick turnaround by our team to get this here for you, to get this to you. This is Kirby Smart just a couple of minutes ago talking about what he likes about a 41-21 win for Georgia against Mississippi State here on the road. Here's Kirby.
Really proud of our guys. I thought that was a total team effort. Really tough place to play. I have a lot of respect for Jeff. I told him before the game, his team has played valiantly all year. They've been in every game they've played. They're well coached. They got talented, skilled players. They're a good football team. And it's a tough place to play, guys. When you fly over and land in the hour time change and you get to the hotel, you're there at 7, you're in a meeting at 8. Players got up yesterday at 6:30 at home. Had to eat a pregame meal at 6:50 with a wake-up call at 6:30 a.m. There's a lot of hurdles. Hour bus ride from Tupelo to here. It's tough. And I thought they navigated that really well. We had good leadership this week. Our players believe in the way we practice, and that conditioning level was huge today. It was hot. It was way hotter than we expected. I told them during the week, I thought this might be like Tennessee or Kentucky, and it would affect both teams because you're not used to playing in that kind of weather in November. And I thought we were well conditioned, and we ran the ball and we stopped the run. So that was two big things. I'm proud of our guys. I also want to say this. We dedicated this win to Miss Kim Allen, who was a coworker of ours, worked in our facility. She's an incredible lady. She'd worked there 4 or 5 years. Every morning I came to work, she was the first person I saw. She was there every day at 5:30 a.m. And a lot of the players got really close to Miss Kim. And she passed this last week, and it was very emotional for a lot of our players. I've never met a more positive person than Miss Kim. So we wanted to make sure she enjoyed that from up above.
Meaningful words from Kirby Smart at the end of that statement. I did not know Kim Allen that he mentions there, but obviously she had a deep relationship with many Georgia players. Certainly sad to hear about her passing, and obviously on behalf of Dawg Nation, I extend condolences to her family, the entire Georgia football family, on what was clearly an important person to Kirby and this Georgia team who passed away in the last few days. Very sad to hear that from Kirby Smart, but eloquently speaking about this win being dedicated to her. That comes across as incredibly poignant and meaningful from Kirby there. He also mentions the heat, and I will tell you that when I got here this morning, I had an extra layer on. I wear like the quarter zip golf pullover a lot, and pretty quickly before the game even started, when it was still pretty early, I realized, no, that's got to come off for me. I'm going to have to just be in short sleeves today because it is warm, and we're down here in the field right now. It's been a long time since we've done a post-game show like this where I had to position the camera in a certain way because there's a pretty big sun still overhead right now, trying to fight the shadow game a little bit today. But obviously you probably see certainly a glistening glow on my ample forehead here because it's still really hot. It's still, hot enough for me to sweat a bit, as gross as that might be for you to consider, but it is hot enough to do that. I think that the TV broadcast, and some of you probably know more about this than I do, I think the TV broadcast today was saying that Kirby wanted to substitute pretty liberally because he was a little concerned about the heat. I can tell you that's not necessarily lip service, that for a November game, now it's ironic, the last time we were here in 2022, it was one of the coldest games I've ever experienced. Today, with the noon start, same time of year, but a completely different weather scenario where it still pretty warm, was very warm for a good bit of the game today. So Georgia was obviously dealing with that. Interesting words coming from Kirby Smart. I'll also tell you this, that we talk about this sometimes. We do our ServPro Gameball. With all due respect, this may be the most controversial ServPro Gameball we've ever done. And it's not because the guy who's going to win it didn't have a good day. He obviously did. But I think we've got a real miscarriage of justice here. So we'll deal with that here coming up in a moment. Let me also get some more calls from you. Once again, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Click the link to join live. Let's get Steven in Maryland. Steven, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Steven, we're glad to have you here. How about them Dogs? And how about what was maybe the most complete Georgia win, certainly among the most complete performances for this team this season? What did you think about it?
How about them, BA? I tell you what, I remember a couple years ago driving all night long from Annapolis over to that riverboat down there for that first invasion in Tennessee. I had to think today that was my first time going to Rocky Top, but kudos to you and all the team being down there with them cowbells ringing. I couldn't imagine sitting through 3 hours of that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It was wild. Cowbells were ringing. But listen, I thought that Georgia thrived in this environment. As good as I've seen them look on the road here in a while, I'm sure you were impressed too.
Yes, sir. What a fun game to watch without biting our nails and having heart attacks halfway through the game.
Yeah, really good phone call. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us. Glad that you're here today, and we'll keep taking these phone calls as well, including our guy William Perry, who, just like in 2022, the last time we were here, he was still in the stadium. I believe William is still here at Davis Wade Stadium today, too. William, you, I forget which post-game show this was. You made quite a name for yourself at one of our post-game shows this year. It's good to have you back here today, too. William, how about them Dogs, and what was it like being here today? William, go ahead. All right, William, obviously around the stadium, get a little bit of a bad signal. We'll get William back here in a second. Let me instead go to our guy, Bill in Rome. Bill, you're next up on the DawgNation Postgame Show. Bill, how about them Dogs, and what did you think about this here today?
Well, I tell you what, BA, I just love it when Nate Frazier just goes off. I mean, he was running the ball like lights out. I mean, rushing for 181 yards the whole game. And Gunner doing what he does best, throwing for almost 300 yards. And they were clicking everywhere. I mean, this is how we got to be the rest of the way, especially next week, where it's not going to be easy. But anyway, BA, I'll catch you first thing Monday morning on DawgNation Daily, because I took some time off. I'll look forward to talking with you.
I appreciate it, Bill. Great phone call, and I'm right there with you. If they can play this way, now keep in mind, Mississippi State from the SEC standing standpoint near the bottom, but Georgia was expected to win this game today by a single-digit margin, ultimately won by far more than that, and so relative to expectations, this was an incredibly impressive Georgia performance. And, Bill, I think you describe it really well. In fact, I think you set us up for the conversation we need to have here for a moment, and we'll show you this on the screen. When you look at the overall day that Nate Frazier has, more than 180 yards on the ground, longest play from scrimmage for Georgia for the season, he averaged more than 15 yards per carry. With all due respect to Gunner Stockton, who we love Gunner Stockton. And frankly, Gunner had an awesome day today. Gunner accounted for 3 touchdowns, threw for 3 touchdowns, passing yards plus rushing yards. He's right there at 300 yards himself. So awesome day. In fact, on DawgNation Daily on Friday, I said, so far this year, if you want to look at Texas, Gunner's having a better year than Arch Manning has had, but Arch had a very good game against Mississippi State. It'd be nice if Gunner could do something similar. Well, lo and behold, Gunner probably had as good a day against Mississippi State as Arch Manning had when they played the shootout game against these Bulldogs a couple of weeks ago. We love Gunner Stockton. You can't love Gunner more than we do. But with all due respect to our guy Gunner, the pride of Tiger, Georgia, today's ServPro Gameball has got to go to Nate Frazier. And this is one of those things where, the cause of democracy gets set back as we go into the shadows here. The cause of democracy just gets set back in such a significant way when the voice of the people doesn't reward who I think is undoubtedly the deserving winner of the game ball. On a day in which Nate Frazier does this, you got to give it to him. We love what Gunner did, and if Gunner keeps playing that way, well, Georgia's going to be in great shape for the rest of the season. But today's game ball's got to go to Nate Frazier. So courtesy of our friends at ServPro, we'll give it to Gunner Stockton because I guess that's what protocol dictates that I must do. But This pretty clearly is a day that is supposed to belong to Nate Frazier. We'll call Nate Frazier the People's Game Ball winner here today. That's what we'll do. Let's get Fred in Jacksonville. Fred, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Fred, how about them Dogs? We had a good time in your city last week, and now we've had a pretty good time here in this wonderful town here today. What'd you think about this win for Georgia?
It's wonderful. I thought they played great today. I think, speaking of Frazier real quick, he's kind of come full circle if you think about it. From the first time remember when he was fumbling the ball at the beginning of last year and into the one before, he's really become a complete running back I think he's gotten so much better. And I'm really happy that he did well today. But Brandon, the one thing I wanted to ask you, and I won't keep you long, we're ranked number 5 right now. We're 5 in the playoff rankings. We're 5 in the other rankings. Do you agree that we're kind of where we need to be for positioning? Because we're not going to play in the SEC championship as of right now. You know, Alabama, Texas A&M, like they're going to play. But do you agree that we're in that perfect spot as far as riding the rest of this thing out and positioning for the playoffs? I'll let you go on that one.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I appreciate the phone call. I think that's a really good question, and here's the way I'll answer it. So let's say what the current pecking order is. Let's say that holds. Let's say that Texas A&M does keep winning, and let's say that Alabama keeps winning. Well, Georgia, assuming it keeps winning, sitting right there at 5 as what would be this year the 5th seed in the college football playoff, I'd say that, yeah, you'd find a lot to like about that. Last year, Texas was the 5 seed. They got all the way to the semifinals. So that would be a pretty nice path to get into a pretty deep run for the playoff, maybe even going farther than Texas did a year ago. The one thing I have said are 2 things. Thing number 1 is that I do think any loss for Georgia starts to complicate things a little bit. Not in terms of missing the college football playoff. I'm not trying to be too fatalistic. I'm just trying to say, look at the situation with Texas right now. Texas still has to play both Georgia and Texas A&M. So that's number 5, number 3. That's who Texas still has to play. They're currently ranked 11. If they lose one of those games, they're looking at maybe a 9-3 regular season. It is not a given. In fact, you'd say more likely no than yes that a 9-3 Texas would make the college football playoff. They may be left out if they have 3 regular season losses. So that gives you an idea that there is a cut line somewhere in the SEC. A lot of teams have the potential of being 10-2. So I think right now Georgia looks really clean. I agree with you that it certainly appears like Georgia's in a really good spot. I think, though, that Georgia wants to keep winning, obviously, but it wants to keep winning to make sure they keep that nice, clean storyline, that nice, clean path to the playoff. Because we saw this from the committee on Tuesday night with how they ranked the first top 25. Fairly nonsensical to have Notre Dame as high as it was. Miami, a team that beat Notre Dame, as low as it was in comparison to the Fighting Irish. That just gives you an idea that when they got to the 2 lost teams, the committee, to my eyes, was essentially making it up as it went along. So you want to stay out of that glut of 2 lost teams if you possibly can, if you want the best chance of not just making the college football playoff, but having a home game and the comfortable spot you want to be in. I'll also say one more thing, then we'll go back to the phones. I still think, if you can play for the SEC championship, you probably want to. Not every Georgia fan agrees, but I do think if you can, you do, because I do like just maintaining my hierarchy within the SEC once again to keep the committee from getting a chance to do something squirrely with me. And here's the other thing. For as good as Texas A&M has been, could I see them losing to Texas at the end of the season? I could, assuming that Georgia also beats Texas. That would put Georgia in the SEC championship. Also, with Alabama still playing Oklahoma, a team that beat it a year ago, I don't think it's impossible that Alabama could lose the game before it's said and done, too. So while right now it seems like, okay, yeah, Bama and A&M, they're going to go play in the SEC championship, and we'll just let them go do it. We'll let them have their way with that. I am not quite so sure that there's still not something to be said for Georgia perhaps making the college football playoff. Making the SEC championship game before this season's done. Sounds like William Perry's still frozen up there. So let's go to Harry in Savannah. Harry, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Glad to have you here. How about them Dogs, and how about a great win for Georgia here today?
How about them Dogs? BA, longtime watcher, listener, probably first-time commenter, I guess. I just wanted to say that my main takeaway, I think, from this game is really the offensive line. And just looking at the previous 6-7 games, all the issues that we were seeing and we were all complaining about with the offense, sort of slow start, it all boiled down to the injuries on the offensive line and, of course, the rotations on the offensive line and then having some of those freshmen. And now we got these two true freshmen on the offensive line that are just killing it. Anyways, thanks, BA. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the phone call. I agree with you. Hey, it's really interesting how many freshmen that Georgia played today. So you mentioned, obviously, Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover. They've been playing a lot. In addition to that, Elias Williams had an amazing catch here today. That was incredible to see on a huge third down that set up a touchdown. Rashawn Dinkins got in the game. Landon Roldan. They tried to run the Ladd McConkey play with him that McConkey scored on here in 2022. That was cool to see. Who else? Zayden Walker, I think, got in. I'm talking about, by the late in the game, you had a lot of guys getting in. I'm talking about early, first half. Georgia was playing so many freshmen today, even beyond the freshmen they have been playing. But to your point about the offensive line, I think if you want to explain why the Georgia offense has found its consistency, why it has gotten better, I just think some of the big issues that we've asked questions about the offensive line, we're not asking those with the same regularity anymore. I don't know they had a great week last week against Florida, to be fair, but it certainly seemed like they were having their way here today. And this is a little bit more in keeping with what we thought the Georgia offensive line might be to begin this season. Anyway, an improved unit over it was last year. Now, I don't know that I ever thought they'd get there on the basis of two true freshmen playing as much as they have, as you mentioned. But nonetheless, this offensive line is getting better, and it seems like the Georgia offense is benefiting from that in the process. I totally agree. Let's get Grady in Bethlehem. Grady, glad to have you here. You're in our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Georgia wins 41-21. How about them here today?
How about them Dogs, BA? We had a really good game. One of the things that I've been saying all year long is we are very young on the defensive backside of the ball, also the offensive line. But the one thing that stands out to me today was watching the linebackers and the defensive line get pressure on that quarterback. I have not seen it the entire year so far, with a few exceptions. This, to me, was a huge coming out party. Number 3 and number 5 just lived in the backfield. I think that was a good sign. Hope to see it going forward. Let me know your thoughts on it, BA. Go Dogs.
I totally agree. Go Dogs, Grady. Great phone call. I agree that, at the beginning of the season, and Georgia fans just know this roster so well. They know starters, they know backups, and obviously a lot of the backups themselves are former elite recruits. And so before the year began, there was so much excitement about a couple of other linebackers, Justin Williams, Chris Cole, and with good reason. They're both outstanding players. And by the way, it was great to see Chris Cole healthy enough to play today. That was awesome. But because there was so much attention on these new fan favorites like Williams and Cole, in a certain respect, C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson had kind of been overlooked a bit. C.J. Allen was getting a lot of national love, but Georgia fans sometimes were talking about other linebackers. And Raylan Wilson at times wasn't really being talked about by maybe anybody. But boy, as you say, Wilson wearing number 5, he's everywhere today. And C.J. Allen's doing more of what he has done and been doing all year long, too. To my eyes, they're having an outstanding year. And they came up in such a big way for Georgia today. This was just a more dynamic version of the Georgia defense. I love to see it. It was truly incredible. Okay, let's do this. Let's pause for a second. If you're on hold, please stay where you are. We're going to get your phone calls. We're also going to hear from Jeff Sentell. There was this pretty serious situation potentially involving Lawson Luckie. We're going to try to give you an update on that. So we got a lot to do here today. Georgia wins 41-21. If you're on hold, we're going to run through a bunch of your phone calls here coming up. But give me 60 seconds to thank a couple of sponsors. It's literally 1 minute, and then we're right back to it with your phone calls right after this.
I get it. We all want to do our research online before buying anything. But if you're in the market for a hot tub, trust me, you'll be glad you came into Georgia Spa Company to see their inventory in person.
You just got to get your hands on them, see them, envision which model will fit your home and your lifestyle best. Talk to one of our consultants who, I promise you, will bring up considerations you never thought to consider. I'd also recommend taking a test soak.
So come on into Georgia Spa Company. I promise You'll be glad you did.
Big games deserve big meals, so let Serchero's make it happen. It's friendly Tex-Mex, served fresh every day. Serchero's catering can handle the crowd, so it's perfect for your tailgate or watch party. Order online, pickup, or delivery. Serchero's is Georgia grown with over 30 locations throughout the state, bringing you fresh Mex, bowls, burritos, tacos, and more, with over 25 fresh toppings, customizable, just the way you like it. So find a location near you at Sercheros.com. That's Sercheros.com.
If you're thirsting for It's Only Tuesday, that meeting should have been an email, and really need something to go your way level of refreshment, we definitely have that. When you're feeling the heat, Circle K makes your day.
This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by Sercheros, Georgia Spa Company, Circle K, and the UGA Bookstore.
Welcome back, everybody. Davis Wade Stadium, Starkville, Mississippi. Georgia has won 41-21. Brandon Adams joined alongside Jeff Sentell. We're going to hear from Jeff what he saw from the sideline here today. We also want to jump back to your phone calls here, too. Matt is in Texas. Our guy, Matt Rukavina, been holding on here. Matt, we're glad to have you here on the DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show this afternoon. How about them Dogs, and what a win for UGA?
Hey, how about them Dogs, BA? Unfortunately, I'm not your favorite Matt Rukavina, but I'm still calling in. Love DawgNation.
Oh, excuse me.
Better, buddy.
Matt, I am so sorry. Hold on. Stay right there with me, Matt. I am so sorry. I saw Matt in Texas, and that's what I assumed it was because he lives in Texas. Matt, I'm glad to have you here today, too. That's what I get for assuming. Thank you for calling in, Matt. And without further ado, apologies for mistakenly announcing you, but I'm happy you're here instead.
Hey, appreciate that, BA. Hey, the biggest thing I wanted to point out, I know a lot of folks have talked about Nate Frazier, what a game he had, Raylan Wilson kind of having their coming out parties. I just wanted to shout out this offensive line. I mean, you watch just the athleticism was unbelievable today. You see all the swings and the moving guards and tackles we had today. I thought Monroe Frilling was unbelievable the way he was able to move at that size out there, and that really sprung a lot of this stuff. So that's the biggest thing. I want to give the big guys love when I can.
I love it, Matt. Great phone call. I appreciate it. A lot of talk today about this offensive line from callers, Jeff. They had a great day, and it obviously impacts the Georgia rushing attack. We've already talked about what Nate Frazier was able to do. But, a week ago, it was also Chauncey Bowens who – didn't play until into the second quarter. A lot of Georgia fans wonder what was going on with that. Then he had the game-winning touchdown. Well, today you saw Bowens in the game to begin. I think a lot of Georgia fans are settling in to say, okay, it's going to be a Chauncey Bowens day. And then, lo and behold, Nate Frazier does what he does. Really, the entire Georgia rushing attack was really having it going all day long today. And as Matt just said, it was the offensive line that enabled that to be the case.
It was great job up front. And, Brandon, after the game, my ear bends to stories like this. Kirby Smart mentioned Miss Kim. She was basically a team support personnel. Nate Frazier even called her basically a janitor, but nobody on the team treated her like a janitor. And Kirby Smart found him right before the half. I don't know if the cameras caught it or not, but he started talking to him. And I asked Nate, what did he do? Did he gas you up? Did he fire you up before going into the locker room? And he said, no, man. He just talked to me about Miss Kim. He said, what would she be doing? Would she be smiling today? Would she be having fun today? Would you want her to look down and see you go? And Nate said that just kind of filled him up. I mean, and Brandon, 181, I believe. I think that's the most by a Georgia running back since DeAndre Swift in 2018.
Has to be.
Some incredible company there. So, this was inspired football by Nate Frazier. I think he plays better when he can play for a purpose. And he started to have some fun. And he started to smile as that game went on.
So good stuff there. And obviously the Georgia offensive line, as Matt was mentioning, also helped us make some of that happen too. We'll stay with the phone calls here. We'll get Derek in Tennessee. Derek, you're next up on the DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show. Derek, how about them Dogs? Glad you're here. And what did you think about this one here this afternoon?
Man, I loved it. I think it was the best game I've seen them play all year long. The defense, I thought looked better till they're late. But, man, the offensive line was opening up holes, and Gunner was doing his thing. So maybe I hope that this is where everything's coming together, to take a good, strong run for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Derek, great phone call. I agree. And I want to mention 2 points that just brought up with Jeff here. Thing number one, I've been saying this now, Jeff, for a few weeks, that I expect Georgia to play close games. I'm assuming everything's going to be dramatic and hard-fought and down to the wire. But if there's ever a time in which they don't do that, if they ever make one look relatively easy, that could be a strong indicator that they've turned the corner and they are ready for the stretch run. Jeff, I got to tell you, this is a game today that as a diehard Georgia fan who wants them to win every game, who just, believes they have a chance to be a great football team, this is the kind of performance, not a perfect game. Beginning drive results in a score, some garbage time stuff late, but this is the kind of game that instills me with a level of confidence in Georgia I have not had prior to it.
Kyle, I mean, Brandon, I kind of look at this as when you look at the context of these seasons that we've been covering the Dogs for so long now, I look at this as a trampoline win. And what I mean by that is I kind of made the point that, Brandon, people forget. Everybody's got consternation about fast starts and non-fast starts and turnovers and can't get anybody off the field on third down. But this is still a very young team. And this is like 65% of the roster as either a freshman or a redshirt freshman or a sophomore. And, Brandon, maybe, just maybe, this team, now with its 9th game under its belt, has kind of figured things out. I think this team is flashing in certain areas. You see how Elias Williams keeps making leaps. Nobody's going to be able to deal with that dude in about a year, Brandon. Nobody.
And to Jeff's point, watch the national stuff on this. I bet there's going to be one of the most talked about things nationally from today's game is going to be that 30-plus yard catch by Elias Williams, just simply because people are used to having Georgia having Darnell Washington, and obviously he's not quite as thick as Darnell was, but he's certainly a body type very similar. The country's going to be like, oh my gosh, where'd they find another one of these tight ends? Wait and see if the Elias Williams catch doesn't end up being one of the most buzzed about things from today's game.
Brandon, I know you enjoy a good well-done steak, a well-cooked steak.
Not a well-done steak.
Well-cooked steak, mind you. Let me make you correct on that one. But I think – I wonder what the rest of the national folks are going to look at when they see a guy like Elias Williams, the number 1 tight end in the country, and then Zayden Walker, the number 1 linebacker in the country, and that man has turned the corner too. Raylan Wilson told me a few weeks ago in one of the post-game sessions, he said, man, just wait. He's probably one of our best pass rushers, if not our best pass rusher right now. When he gets ready, we're going to throw him on some folks. And, Brandon, this is Georgia doing Georgia things. What I mean by that is, okay, we're now week 9, week 10 of the season. Oh, and Georgia has now marinated these 5 stars, and Elias Williams, and then also a Zayden Walker. And now they're ready to play Georgia football and winning football, and it gives this team another gear.
The other thing that Derek mentioned, and we were joking about Gunner earlier because I thought that Nate Frazier should have been our ServPro Gameball recipient. But to just isolate the conversation about Gunner for a moment, we can show you some of what the Georgia offense was able to do today. I thought Gunner was remarkable. I thought he had such a good game. And on Friday on DawgNation Daily, right before you joined us, I had mentioned that really, technically speaking, moving into the Texas game next week, Gunner Stockton's had a better year than Arch Manning. Just he's been the better player between the two. But Manning had a very good game against Mississippi State. And I just made the point, boy, it'd be nice for Gunner to have as good a game against Mississippi State as Arch Manning did. Well, for all intents and purposes, he basically did. He's about 300 total yards when you add passing and rushing, 3 touchdowns, no pick. Some of his rushing yards were timely. Georgia was in third and short all day long today. Gunner Stockton, in all seriousness, after joking about the game ball thing earlier, he was amazing today.
You know, Brandon, I think sometimes it's too much too soon with a lot of folks. You mentioned Arch Manning right there, but Brandon Gunner is so calm, so smooth. He plays well without having to dig into the well to play well. And what I mean is he looks like a calm, poised quarterback. Mind you, Brandon, I believe this is start number 10 for Gunner Stockton. He looks as composed. I was talking with some media members on the sideline, and Gunner is starting to play kind of like, maybe with not as much splash, but he's playing a lot like Stetson without maybe the baggage, or Stetson without a lot of the drama. Everybody reveres this guy. He's winning games. He answers the bell. And Brendan, his teammates just love him. Like, they love that stuff by watching him block guys. They love how when someone scores a 60-yard touchdown, their quarterback is down there first and foremost. They're celebrating with him. I mean, this guy has the pulse of his football team. And Brandon, I'm not ready to throw Heisman in there, but this guy is playing quarterback at a higher level as we've seen since Stetson, at least.
All right, we'll get back to the phones here. Our guy, Chef Jay Bowen, hanging on. Chef Jay, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. How about them Dogs? Georgia wins 41-21. What'd you think about it?
Hey, BA, and hey, Jeff. Y'all talked about both my points that I wanted to discuss, but how great is it to have a awesome, humble quarterback in Stockton, very different from Beck, as well as Williams. I just enjoyed the catch. I want to see that guy out there more, and I'm calling the upset tonight. I want LSU to take down Bama.
Hey, I love it, Chef Jay. Appreciate the phone call. That's going to happen. It's less than an hour from where I'm standing right now. Maybe we'll just swing on by and go to Bryant-Denny tonight and watch a day-night doubleheader with Alabama and LSU. How about that?
That would be fun. I mean, you want to get through Tuscaloosa. Maybe you want to get through that traffic, but also you might just stop and have a beverage.
The other thing that he mentions also, Chef Jay Bowen mentions, is the catch by Elias Williams. I'll be totally honest. I mean, obviously, I liked Elias Williams as a prospect. Of course I did. You couldn't help but not. But I thought he might be a little bit more of a year two guy. I thought there might be just a little bit of necessary development that needs to take place. People see that big, long frame, but sometimes you got to teach a big, long body how to use it at the college level. It's not always an easy thing to do necessarily. He is far more developed and far more polished as a freshman than I ever thought he'd be. Far more.
Brandon, this is going to kind of feel like foaming at the mouth a little bit, Brandon, but he's 6'7", about 255 right now. He was a 3-time All-State basketball player in high school. And, Brandon, he's got Georgia coaches kind of fighting over him in practice. And this is what Kirby said that I thought was a rare moment. He normally is not this clairvoyant in the post-game presser. He said, you know what? Starting out of the year, Ethan was ahead of Elias. Knew more football, just had played a lot higher level football in terms of scheme, in terms of the pro-style offense. And he said, can you just imagine if we had Ethan and Elias clicking right now on this offense where Ethan was still with us and now Elias is moving along to that level? I mean, that guy, Brandon, I hate to say it because this guy, if he's on this trajectory he's on right now, we're only going to see him for 2 more years the way he's playing.
Speaking of tight ends, I want to ask you in a moment about Lawson Luckie. I got a chance to see Lawson myself at the end of the game. I want to find out what you know because I'm assuming you know more than I do about what was potentially, certainly by the look of it, a potentially scary situation. So we'll talk about that here coming up in a moment. Let's also get Stacy and LJ. Stacy, thanks for checking in here today. We're happy to have you here. We obviously love LJ, beautiful part of the state. And Stacy, it's good to have you on the show here today. Thanks for being on our DawgNation post-game call-in show. How about them Dogs?
Enjoys racing. He loves his career. Never got a complaint on it.
Hello?
Stacy, you're live on the air with us. Go ahead.
Hey, I have a couple of comments to make. First of all, people want to call this a trap game, and they need to learn to trust Kirby. And then I have 2 questions. I'm going to hang up and listen. And the first one is, why don't they ever show Gunner's mama on television? And the second one is, what time is it in Texas?
It's always 10 to 9 in Texas, Stacy. You know that. It's a great phone call. And, yeah, I don't know where Mrs. Stockton's sitting, why she didn't get on TV more than she does. I did run into her last week before the game against Florida, and we kind of joked a little bit, and they were obviously having a good time. It's always fun when you go by and see some of the player-parent tailgates. To me, they're not that different than other parents of, like, say, my kid's age or, parents like watching their kids play, and it's fun to watch them all hanging out before the game. And so I had a chance to bump into them for a minute last week. They were obviously looking forward to that one, and wherever she was tonight, I'm sure she was having a very good time.
Brandon, you're almost really professional at this because, you kind of set me up for this point. One of the things Kirby said is, Brandon, they put together a montage for the players this week. And what they did is they enlisted on the moms. They enlisted on the players' moms, like you're mentioning Sherry Stockton right there. Well, they got the moms to send in videos of what it was like. Brandon, remember, 11 o'clock football games, that's peewee football. That's being like 8, 9 years old and playing. And Kirby complimented all the moms who sent in such great stuff, and they put together a montage for the guys, and it was very emotional. They were talking about, listening to music on the way there, getting everything dressed and getting them ate and getting the laundry done and getting their pads all together. And he said, I want you to think about what it was like when you just loved to play football. you couldn't wait to play football. You know, all this pressure about are they trending, are they getting better, are they a fourth quarter comeback, type team. And what Kirby Smart said that did for him. He said Nate Frazier's mom had some of the best points, the best moments of that montage, and it was really something to kind of put all this into perspective. While there were different routines, Brandon, they had to get up at 6:30, they had to get on the bus, they had wake up calls, they had to come from Tupelo today an hour in order to come to this football game. So there was a lot of routine changes for these young men, and what Kirby did, what those moms did, kind of brought it back home.
Well, let's get a phone call here again. Let's talk to Derek in Albany. Derek, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Derek, how about them Dogs, and how about this win here today?
How about them Dogs, BA? Man, all I can say is...
How about them?
We just watching these dogs grow up in front of us. I told people at the beginning of the season, man, if we grow up by the end of the season, we might be on the run for another natty. It looks pretty hot out there, BA. Look like you need those sprinklers to come on, but they're not coming on anytime soon. How about them dogs, man?
How about them, Derek? Yeah, I'll tell you, the sprinklers are on the far side over there. And, yeah, as hot as it is, I may go run and jump in those for a second, get a little bit of a little refreshing mist on me or something. We were talking about this earlier. Way hot. Kirby said this postgame too, way hotter than we expected it to be.
This is not supposed to be November, Brandon, and I don't know if you remember, but I could recall being on the sidelines today. You remember the last time we were here, the extreme temperature? It was like probably one of the coldest Georgia games I've ever covered, and then until the next week when you went to the Kentucky game and it got even colder. Right. And today we're in balmy Caribbean type temperatures here.
No doubt that is the case. All right, so let's talk about something serious here for a moment. Obviously, we saw Lawson Luckie take a big shot earlier in this game. After the game, when I was walking onto the field to get ready to do the show, I saw Lawson walking off, and he's obviously not fully dressed, but he, to my eyes, and this is not a medical evaluation, I'm just saying, seemed to be walking okay, seemed to be doing okay. That's not in any way an evaluation of him medically. I was just happy to see him up and walking around and seeing him looking as good as he did. You were obviously on the sideline when that happened. Any additional information you can give us about what was, at least to the eyes, a scary hit that Lawson took?
Definitely, you said the word right there. Scary is the word, and you look at it, and you see Lawson on the ground, and you see him kind of struggling with that blow. Kirby Smart, well, shortly thereafter, I saw him walking off underneath his own power with Jonas Jennings. He was talking. Kirby Smart gave an update in the post-game Georgia locker room, and the one thing he said was he took a shot to the head. We're all aware of that. He said Lawson wanted to go back in, and the medical people, the decision makers, decided to hold him out. I think that's enough code words right there to let you know that he obviously got his bell rung, whatever you want to call it. Probably, I hate to say that because it sounds lucky, because it could have been a lot worse than it was.
In fact, while we hear Kirby Smart giving this update after the game, this is what Kirby had to say about that. Take a listen to this.
Do you have any updates on Lawson Luckie?
He obviously got a shot to the head, and he's fine. He's moving. He wanted to go back in the game, and the decision makers held him.
Any update on Drew?
Yeah, he's got a laceration of some kind on his snapping hand. It was a cut open, and they were going to have to pad it, but he couldn't snap if he padded it. They were going to have to suture it, and I don't think they got it sutured in time to get him back.
Do you think better side?
So you hear Kirby Smart there, not only talking about Lawson Luckie, but also the situation with Drew Bobo, too.
Yeah, so I saw him actually walking off the field late in the game, Brandon, and it was his snapping hand. It was wrapped in gauze, and it was bleeding kind of profusely there. And Kirby Smart said afterward that it looked like he had a laceration. They were trying to get it sutured. It is his snapping head, and that's always a concern, but they weren't able to get it sutured in time for him to go back in. But one thing we know about Drew, he's an awfully tough dude, and he was going to try to get in there. And I don't think from the tones Kirby Smart used that Drew Bobo is going to be a question mark for Texas next week.
We're going to run through some more phone calls here, including a guy we tried earlier who is somehow still in the stadium. I don't know how he's figured that out. But William Perry joins us here on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. William, what a day for Georgia. We saw you here when you were here in 2022. I remember that. And you're still here today as well. How about them Dogs, and how about this Georgia win?
Oh, man, it was incredible. Yeah, 2022, you were right up there in the corner of the stadium with a big trench coat
freezing
on.
Cold.
It was about 20 degrees. And Shannon and I walked way up to those sky suites, and we're hollering at you. And so we had to relive it today. So that was a lot of fun. But I've got my friend here, the immortal Randy Walker, and he actually has a few questions for you.
Okay, so why did Mississippi State go for it on 4th down when they were only down by 10, where they could have cut it down to a touchdown, and I think that kind of set like a panic mode that when they missed the fourth down, that even if we're going for the fourth down, kind of set a panic mode among the team. And then also when they had all those back and forth with the fake punt later in that quarter, I mean, you knew they were trying to get them offsides. Why didn't Mississippi State try to just warn their defense? It's gonna be a fake. And then the other thing was that Mississippi State chose to receive the ball kicking off when they won the toss rather than deferring, and Georgia scored a touchdown to end the first half, and then they scored a touchdown to start the second half, and game over. I mean, I thought those were really questionable coaching decisions by Coach Levy.
Yeah, Randy, I think that's a really good point. And William and Randy, I appreciate the phone call. Appreciate you being here. Let me run through these three things here really quickly, because obviously in the case of Mississippi State, it knows it has the high-powered offense. It also knows that Georgia's giving up these early scores in every game. So from that standpoint, the strategy worked for them. But the flip side of that, Jeff, is it did set up Georgia. There's all the talk now about the middle eight. Final 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. Well, Georgia really controlled that middle eight. And a lot of that was also set up by what the caller also mentions there, which is when Jeff Lebby made the decision to not kick a field goal and make it basically a one-score game, to try to go for it on fourth down. I almost always think the more aggressive coaching decision is the right decision. In that case, it probably would have been wiser to make it a 17-10 game. Instead, it set up Georgia to go up 24-7, 17-7, then 24-7, and then 31-7 in the second half. And the game was obviously over, but it was really Georgia controlling the action into first half, into the second half, because Mississippi State did give them that first possession of the second half. When you defer, that's what you're hoping for. In this case, Georgia didn't defer. They had it deferred for them. But when you ask for that ball to begin the second half, that's what you're hoping to have, and it could not have worked out any more perfectly for Georgia than it did right there.
Well, I think, Brandon, as the final score indicates, including the rushing totals where Georgia went well over 300, I believe they threw for 260. I think that's Lebby and Mississippi State realizing they have to hit the accelerator. They have to try to keep up with Georgia when Georgia is just gashing them left and right. I also thought one of the most important parts was are we going to punt? Are we not going to punt? Let's run off. Let's run on. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And then they draw the offsides. I think Karis Jackson, former great Georgia Dawg, he commented on social media that he says Kirby must be a genius, and Kirby said they kind of have that in their bag to use it, and that's
the same thing that Notre Dame did to them last year.
Oh yeah, he said that. He says we especially know how to use it now after that Notre Dame game.
Now, speaking of the success in the middle eight into the first half, again, the second half that the call just brought up, Kirby also talked about that post-game too. This is what Kirby Smart said about the success they had to end the first half and then to pick right back up beginning the third quarter with that same momentum. Here was Kirby Smart on that.
Love the middle eight. So proud of the middle eight. I think that was the difference in the game. We keep a stat every game of middle eight, and we've been good in the middle eight, and we were excellent today. But the middle eight is huge, and we work hard on that. And it was a huge turning point in the game there when we got them to jump off sides and cash in on Bobo's call on the screen. So for all the screen haters out there you go.
I'm telling you, Kirby in these post-game press conferences is very entertaining. A little jab at as he calls them, the screen haters. That is very funny stuff from Kirby Smart. Now, somebody who's not a screen hater is Matt Rukavina. Earlier, Matt, I brought another Matt from Texas onto the show, thinking it was from you because you are a part of our audience, a Matt from Texas. This was a different Matt from Texas, and I jumped the gun because that's what I do sometimes. But now it is Matt Rukavina here on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Matt, how about them Dogs? And what do you think about this Georgia win here today?
Hey, BA. I was just going to listen today. I hadn't planned on calling in. I thought a lot of people were touching on everything that I wanted to say, so I wasn't planning. But then I hear you. I've got dad duty today because Gabby's working an overnight shift at the hospital, so I hear my name in the background. I'm like, okay, I need to call in. So anyway, to the game. Yeah, I think a lot of our callers are touching on pretty much whatever I want to say. To your immediate point about Kirby, I'm going to give Mike Bobo, listen, criticism where it's due. I'm going to give him an A- for the game. He called an almost flawless game. I don't understand why we're running a toss sweep on 2nd and goal with 2 when you've got Nate having a great day and Chauncey. I thought that was a missed opportunity. Obviously, it didn't end up costing us, but at the time, I just was like, come on. Like, why? I felt there's no excuse for that. But to that point, and I think some other people have touched on this, our offensive line, you guys, it's turning into a unit, and it's getting really fun to watch. And then you see the results of Nate having a career day today. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Like everyone said, no blood pressure spiking day to day. And last but not least, BA, a lot of people are talking about your voice. We got to get you recuperated. We just swept the state of Mississippi, so I think you can have a hot toddy now. So go, you've earned yourself a hot toddy, and I will talk to you guys in a week after we beat Texas. My wife's going to hate it, but we're going to have fun.
I love it, Matt. I know that's a big one for you next week, living where you live and with your wife being a big Texas supporter. So I know you'll be looking forward to that one next week. And as he points out, Georgia can also crown itself today Magnolia State champs. And he was saying that because of my voice, I can have a little hot toddy now, to maybe get a little soothing comfort there on that. Didn't do high school last night, so the voice rested at least a little bit. That's right. It was loud in here today, so I was probably just wearing it, just trying to overcome the noise in here. So, but a great day and a great Georgia win, and more praise to the offensive line. That has been a familiar refrain with a lot of the discussion here today.
I mean, Brandon, I don't know how much it's mentioned. I hope everybody mentions and notices this, man. But with Ernest Green III healthy, and he takes that right tackle, Monroe Freeling at left tackle. And then you can spackle in a little bit with Juan Gaston at right guard some, or right tackle some. And I saw today Dontrell Glover was playing some left guard today, Brandon. I mean, how valuable has that freshman been? But I really think Georgia's starting to show glimpses of more horsepower over the last couple of weeks, and I think that is directly related to getting Ernest Green III back.
So why don't we do this in a moment? Let's just try to bounce through and talk about some of that stuff about, hey, who was in and who was doing what, because Georgia had a lot of guys involved in a way that even more so than they have a lot. Also, when it comes to the success of the running game and what Georgia did, let's hear a couple from Kirby Smart on that, starting with the guy that we thought should have been our ServPro Gameball winner, Nate Frazier. Impressive performance from him. I think the performance speaks for itself, but nonetheless, Kirby had a lot of nice things to say about Nate at the conclusion of the game. This is what Kirby said about his running back.
Yeah, he's been awesome, man. He works really hard. He and Chauncey both share the load. I think they cheer for each other, and there's the outside world all worries about which back's in, and we love both those kids. And really, I hate it for Dwight. He had a couple bad looks today. He had a bad break. A guy didn't make a block, and Dwight's one of our better running backs, and we got to continue to bring him and Josh along. But Nate had a great day, man. What a great day he had, and he was deserving. But let's give credit to Oscar Delp and Monroe and Ernest and Micah and Drew. Oh my gosh, Juan and Donnie. They blocked those plays up now. He was in the secondary quick, and that's elite blocking. There's been no response. He just works. I mean, Nate works. He's a very emotional kid. We did a cool deal where we reached out to a lot of the parents because we felt like Saturday morning was going to be a tough deal for us to get up to 6:50, and we had moms and dads and coaches and everybody reach out with stories and memories of these kids growing up playing Saturday mornings as 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds, and it was probably the most emotional video I've ever seen. And Nate's mother gave a great couple stories about Nate and what their routine was in the morning and how excited he was to go play. And I wanted to use that energy and that love for the game where it was pure to come into today and let that carry over into today, because it was like Pee Wee football. We're going to wake up and go play Saturday morning. And some of the moms did an incredible job sending in tape, and we made a montage of it. And it was pretty emotional for the players. I had several of them crying after the tape played.
The version of Kirby Smart that you get for a post-game press conference is so enjoyable. It is so incredible. And you described this a moment ago, telling the story of the moms talking about their sons playing the really early Saturday morning games. And listen, as a dad myself right now, I've got plenty of experience with the very early start, running through the drive-through, just trying to grab whatever breakfast you can. To have the moms, the Georgia players telling that story, and to have Kirby Smart kind enough to tell us the story in that press conference setting, something he does not have to do. And sometimes during the week, he doesn't really feel like getting into that sort of thing, which is also his prerogative. But man, how cool is that to have him? And you can hear that there's some emotion in Kirby's voice on that too, because obviously he knows that the family is the foundation on which football rests. And to hear Smart talk in that way, you can tell that he's moved by it. Frankly, I'm moved by it just hearing it secondhand.
You know, Brandon, you and I have been around this program a lot, and there's a lot of things that Georgia just really gets, and they do right. And I'm not talking about getting guys in the league, and I'm not talking about signing 5 stars and defensive adjustments and all those things. That was an example today where you sit there and you go, you know what? They just do things differently at Georgia. And, you know, this is kind of a rare moment for me to editorialize here, man. But, Brandon, this also happened right after the game. Kirby Smart went and found Anthony Evans, hugged his neck, cut up, just laughing with him or whatever. They're giggling. Some more Georgia Bulldog players come around. And then afterward, you know, Kirby was like, I just love that kid. I rode him so hard about catching punts, and he practiced so hard for me, played so hard for me. I'm just happy for him. Brandon, when you see stuff like that, besides the 900th win, which I'm sure you've already shouted out already.
No, we need to. The 900th win today. I'm glad you did. Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah, but, you know, besides all the winning, besides all the development, besides all the flashy edits and the really cool internal program moments like getting mom involved for a morning game, when you see that right there, that shows you there's something really real about the Georgia football program.
100%, 1,000,000%. By the way, I think it's only 8 programs all time that have 900 wins, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. And Kirby, it's pretty funny, Brandon. You start adding them up. He's probably been involved in 150, 160 as a player and a coach.
Yeah, so you got 201, obviously, for Vince Dooley leading the way on that. Wally Butts got his share. Other Georgia coaches throughout the years, Harry Mayer, Johnny Griffith, guys like that. Obviously, Ray Goff, Jim Donnan, who we have great respect for. Mark Richt, too. But now, as a head coach himself, Kirby's up over 100 on that, too. He's a pretty significant contributor on that now.
I think he's like 110, 115. I believe he won 50 when he was a player at Georgia, maybe 40. Wasn't the greatest years. But then also as a coach, he had another year with Mark Richt. I believe it was 2005.
2005, his running backs coach was an SEC championship. Okay, let's do a couple of things here. Before we're done, we're going to give you highlights, a chance to look back on some of the big moments of this game. And boy, there were plenty of those. Also, speaking of Kirby Smart, he also talked more about the success that Georgia had on the ground beyond just Nate Frazier. Let's hear Kirby Smart on that right now, too.
Yeah, I thought they blocked people up. They got a hat on a hat. You know, there's not a lot of ways to trick people in the run game in terms of the way you block them. And our offensive line, Stacy Searles, Coach Bobo, Hartley, the Phil, Crawford, I mean, all those guys, receivers. I mean, it's a total team effort, you know. And you can't run the ball unless you commit to the run. And it takes extra work and extra reps. And we have an unselfish team that believes in that. Our quarterback believes in it, and it was a total team effort in the run game.
So I have some good news. Speaking of the running game, we have made the aristocratic decision here to thwart the will of the people. The ServPro Gameball now belongs to Nate Frazier.
Upon further review, you're waiving your executive branch powers in order to move that game ball down the road.
That's exactly right. We have decided that the game ball, and listen, to say it again, we love Gunnar Stockton, and we did a whole segment in the show a minute ago on how impressed we were with Gunnar Stockton. This is not Gunnar's fault. Yeah. But this was Nate Frazier's biggest game as a Georgia Bulldog. He's got to be your ServPro Gameball today. Gunner's won it half dozen times.
I'm sure Gunnar, if he was right there live with us right now, he'd say, "Shoot, man, I appreciate that. Give it back to Nate. Nate deserves it more than I do." And he would say it in the most nicest and the most humble way. Like that's how Gunnar is. And I mean, and listen, Brandon, I think the will of the people finally won out. When you've got a back rolling off like Nate Frazier did, showing a lot of joy in his game as well, Brandon. There was a moment in the game, Brandon, I don't know if you probably noticed it, but there was a bang-bang moment where not only did Georgia get a sack, they looked like Gabe Harris broke that dude's ribs, but then shortly thereafter, and Kaylee Mansell would get a tickle out of this, Noah Thomas catches another touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
I mean,
that's a pretty play design too.
One of the things Kirby mentioned about that is he's like, I love how Zachariah Branch is getting down there blocking. I love how my guys are springing all of our other guys, and you see that and you just go, hold on, am I seeing things? Do I need to get my eyes checked? Noah Thomas going off for the second straight week.
Yeah, he had fun with that one too.
And then also you got sacks as well.
Okay, so here before we're done, we'll give you highlights of the game. We're going to tell you why this is a very big week coming up with Dawg Nation, an event that we want you to be a part of. Yeah. If Kaylee's got something to say, we'll let her talk. And if she wants a break, she can have one. She's standing right here and has been for the last few minutes. I also said, let's do some personnel stuff for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned a moment ago Donnie Glover play some left guard for Georgia Tech. He's done that some. It was nice to see Daniel Harris back playing again. We had heard during the week that DeMelo Jones was actually a little healthier than they thought he was, but they didn't have to use him today. They, for the most part, got the job done. I don't know that Georgia was perfect with its safety pass coverage today, but cornerbacks seemed to be fine. There was that.
They brought Janelle Aguero out for the post-game media scrum, so obviously they were pleased with how he played today.
You saw Landon Roldan get a touch early in the game as a replica of the wearing number 84, the Ladd McConkey touchdown from the 2022 game. Obviously, we mentioned Elias Williams. Zayden Walker played some early today. By the fourth quarter, everybody's playing. And to be honest with you, by the fourth quarter, I'm also trying to get set up for the post-game show. So I don't have any idea about how Ryan looked or anything like that. I really didn't watch much of the fourth quarter.
Kirby Smart also shouted out Dwight Phillips. He said Dwight had a couple of plays that could have busted with a block here, a block there. And he's like, he loves how everybody's concentrating on who gets the touches. And the kids just love seeing each other play. Kirby Smart made it mention, and through his comments, he made it sound like, Dwight Phillips is working hard. He needs to bust one of those as well for all the great work he does. And Brandon, that kicker just keeps being automatic, just keeps drilling those left and right.
You kick one out of bounds, Dad. I prefer you not to do that. But
well, he comes when you set it down and you kick something that's been held, he's just fine. You'll take that every day.
On the place kicks, he's been outstanding, and I'm mostly just kidding when I say that. Anyway, anything else from a personnel standpoint that I did not mention?
I thought Ryan Puglisi got in. Maybe like
I said, I'm trying to get set up for the post-game show. I didn't see much of that.
I would have liked to have seen him a little bit earlier come out there. But, Gunner is a guy that you want to keep him a little bit fresh for Texas next week because I think his legs will be called on a little bit more. But, Brendan, you see how – and I know this is not transitive property. It doesn't work. But you see how Georgia plays this Mississippi State team on this field. Yeah. And a lot of people will make mention about how, what Georgia did against this Mississippi State team. And compare it to what Texas did against, because Texas really had to fight tooth and nail to get a win there.
Which is true, and I'm not saying it's completely insignificant, but that's counterbalanced with the fact that Texas is sitting home painting their fingernails right now, while Georgia's out here fighting a road game in the SEC. So
well, as long as it's anything involving physicality in Georgia and the University of Texas, I think the Dogs are going to be okay.
That's the point I can agree with. Good stuff, Jeff. Appreciate that. Kaylee Mansell, why don't you pop over here for a second? Yeah, wear your sunglasses. You look cool, actually. Hop over here. So, good stuff today. I think you'll agree with me. This stadium never got full, but at the beginning of the game, this place was rocking.
Nothing and no one could have prepared me for the sound of the cowbells, and it wasn't even really the volume of it. I think it's just the fact that it sounds like a bunch of rattlesnakes. Completely threw me for a loop, but even with a non-packed stadium, my God, for the first quarter, you could barely hear anything.
So I still don't think the cowbells are as loud as just like people yelling really loud. Tennessee, Auburn, places like that, South Carolina, I would say are louder. But I just thought the crowd's really into it. And obviously they know they don't have a very good team, at least based on the record. They got pretty restless when things were not going well. But I just think it's appropriate context for what Georgia did in the first quarter, especially after giving up the early score. The fact that in the teeth of a crowd that wanted to be impactful, this is a patriotic day here. They had great paratroopers coming down with the American flag. They're playing Freebird. It was like he was cranked up, and it was really cool. I thought it was a really fun atmosphere, but I thought that Georgia handled it very well.
Yeah, I think that the turning point, at least for the Mississippi State fan base, was when Jeff Lebby decides to go for it on fourth down instead of kicking the field goal. You could hear boos coming from the crowd, and in that moment I understood that decision from him, and ultimately it didn't go their way, but I thought that's when the fans started to decline. But oh my God, I forgot what it felt like to go into halftime of a game at peace.
Nice, I know.
I mean,
casual or relaxed.
I was just at that point too. I was like, if they come out and they score on the first drive of the first half, like it's done, it's over.
We're up in the press box eating a little ice cream. We're just chilled.
I mean, it was the most complete and polished version of this Georgia team that we've seen all season long, and it was combining both the best performances from the offense and from the defense as well. I mean, the first drive score for Mississippi State, I mean, that's just to be anticipated at this point, so not much to worry about there. But
just get it over with and go play football.
No, exactly. I mean, anybody that's been following this team along knows that that's always the case. But I mean, wow, what an incredible performance for Georgia, and I hope it doesn't get overshadowed by who the opponent was today, because this is a decent Mississippi State team, and I don't want that to get lost in translation. This was a quality win for Georgia today.
Great stuff. Appreciate it. Awesome job, Kaylee Mansell. And by the way, Kaylee going to be a big part of what we have going on this upcoming Thursday, y'all. This is going to be one of the biggest events we've done in a while. We're calling it DawgNation on Tap. It's going to be at the Terrapin Brewery and Tap Room right there in Athens. Obviously, getting ready for Texas on Saturday. We're going to get you ready in style at Terrapin Brewery. So your first beer that night, courtesy of Terrapin's going to be complimentary. That's an awesome thing. Also, Sercheros is going to be on hand. They're going to have food, free food for you. So your first beer is free. The food is free. It's one of the reasons why we're going to ask you for a totally free event to RSVP. So just simply go to DawgNation.com/on-tap and just let us know you're coming. Think of it like your cousin's wedding. Just let us know you're coming. Hey, BA, I'm going to be there. Come on by and see us there that night. Going to be an amazing experience from 6 to 9 p.m. Thursday, November 13th. This upcoming Thursday. Getting ready for Georgia, Texas. The entire Dawg Nation team is going to be there. We'll have a live Q&A, talking some Georgia football. Also special guests. John Stimchcombe is going to be there. Davin Bellamy is going to be there. Two incredible guests. And in addition to that, we are also giving away a pair of tickets to the big game that Saturday in Athens, one of the biggest in recent memory. We're giving away a pair of tickets to somebody there that night. So it's the Terrapin Brewery in Athens this upcoming Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. Go to DawgNation.com/on-tap. Register, RSVP, let us know you're coming. Free food courtesy of Sercheros. First beer complimentary courtesy of Terrapin. John Stinchcombe, Davin Bellamy, the entire Dawg Nation team, and giving away a pair of tickets to the big game that Saturday in Athens. We can't wait to see you for Dawg Nation on tap at the Terrapin Brewery. Okay, so total confession. Last week, I didn't think my voice was doing well enough to do the highlights, so I had to basically tap out on the highlights. But this week, the stadium's kind of quiet now. We're getting ready to go home. So why not, on the way out the door here, if you're a YouTube TV subscriber, maybe you missed the game, or maybe you just want to relive some of the top moments from the game, let's go back and look at what it looked like to see Georgia get a 41-21 win over Mississippi State here today, closing out its regular season road games in style, getting this big one. Let's take a look at the highlights right here on that. Kirby Smart telling the team, hey, it's going to be loud. You better be ready to lock in. And Georgia would get locked in, including Gunnar Stockton. He's going to find London Humphreys on the first drive of the game, an indication that Gunnar would be dialed in. Humphreys, who's come up big for Georgia all year, comes up big right there. Then it's Nate Frazier. How many of these do we see from Nate today? This could have been a touchdown. Instead, it set Georgia up right at the goal line. But don't worry, he'd find the end zone later on. And speaking of finding things that Georgia's been looking for, Raylan Wilson got a sack. We've been wanting to see that from Georgia. Raylan Wilson steps up to provide it. Then the Georgia defense would swarm again. This time, football comes free. Quintavious Johnson gets credit for knocking it loose. K.J. Bolden, after missing the second half last week, jumps on that, gets the fumble recovery. And how about Elias Williams? Freshman tight end, 5-star, a future star at the college level, goes up on third down, comes down with a catch, 30-plus yards on the reception, as my voice cracks. Georgia would be set up. Chauncey Bowens gets the score. All Georgia here at this point. Gunnar Stockton again, first half action. Going to hit his other tight end, Oscar Delp. Delp gives you the first down signal. Here come the Georgia Bulldogs once again. On the ground, the fake handoff. Instead, going to hit Delp for the score. Play action in the RPO game working well for Georgia throughout the day. Gunnar also, Kirby Smart, pokes some fun at those who don't like the screen passes from the Mike Bobo offense. My guess is every Georgia fan liked that one to Zachariah Branch, pretty quickly becoming this team's most dynamic playmaker. He got the score to end the first half. But then the second half would begin much the same way the first half concluded. Nate Frazier going 59 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. Georgia, Kirby Smart says he loves the middle eight. Well, Georgia controlled those final minutes of the first half. Beginning of the second half, the Nate Frazier touchdown, the example of that longest play from scrimmage this year. Then it was Gabe Harris's turn to get into the backfield. He would lay some lumber on one of the Mississippi State quarterbacks. Georgia defense was looking good. Gunnar Stockton also accounted for 3 total touchdowns through the air today. This one, the second consecutive game in which the Texas A&M transfer, Noah Thomas, would find the end zone. He even got a chance to high step his way in the end and got a chance to be lifted in the air by a fellow transfer in Josh McCray. Georgia firing on all cylinders offensively today. Noah Thomas in the end zone got his first career touchdown as a Georgia Bulldog last week against Florida. comes back and returns the favor here today. And how about that from the Georgia Bulldogs? And how about a chance? Our Cody Chafin's doing such great work on that, not just shooting the video, compiling it, putting it together. Jay Black getting ready for air. I will tell you, this post-game show has become one of my favorite things we do here at Dawg Nation. And it's not because of what I get to do. It's because of hearing from Rodrigo Blankenship, really good stuff from Jeff Sentell, who sees the show from, or I should say sees the game from the sidelines. It's a completely different perspective. Kaylee brings so much energy, your phone calls, and then I get a chance to do highlights like that because of the great video that Cody Chafin's uses, or the stuff that we reference during the show. Magically, that video just pops up on the screen. This has become a really fun show to do, and many of you have made it just an incredible experience each and every week. I appreciate that. And let me tell you, the biggest post-game shows of the year are still on the way. Next Saturday against Texas, and who knows where after that. There was a time in which we kind of wondered, what would the postseason outlook even be for a Georgia team that squeaked by against Tennessee, lost its next game to Alabama, and there was real and legitimate reason for concern. And we still don't know exactly how this season is going to conclude, but boy, we have some ideas that Georgia might be playing some of its very best football at the exact right time. This was a fun one today. 41-21. Georgia goes on the road for the final time, beats Mississippi State, setting up a colossal game next Saturday against the Texas Longhorns. It is going to be a gigantic week this week on Dawg Nation, with Dawg Nation Daily, all of our other shows, Dawg Nation on Tap coming up Thursday night, and then a big one between the hedges 1 week from now. So get your game face on, get ready to enjoy it. We're going to come back home. We'll see you in the great state of Georgia very late tonight. How about them Dogs? 41-21. Thanks for being here on our Dawg Nation post-game call-in show. We'll talk to you again next time.